Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph lived in a video game. His job was to wreck a building every day, game after game. That was why he was called the bad guy. Fix-It Felix Jr. was the good guy. He fixed everything that Ralph wrecked. The Nicelanders, who owned the building, threw Felix parties, made him fancy cakes, and gave him medals. Ralph didn't get any medals, and he didn't get invited to any parties. Ralph was lonely. Ralph made a big decision. He left his own video game and traveled to another game to search for a medal. Ralph thought that once he got a medal, he would be a good guy and everyone would love him. Ralph got his medal, but he lost it in a game called Sugar Rush. Then he found a little girl named Vanellope who wanted to be a racer. She had his medal. She needed it to enter the big race. King Candy didn't want Vanellope to race. He said Vanellope was a video game glitch. Glitches were not allowed to race. Vanellope asked Ralph to help her build a better and faster race cart. Ralph needed Vanellope to win back his medal. At King Candy's garage, Ralph and Vanellope worked together to build Vanellope's cart. They did it. King Candy told Ralph that Vanellope didn't belong in Sugar Rush. If she raced, the video game would break. Then she would be stuck in Sugar Rush all alone. King Candy returned the medal to Ralph. Ralph wanted to save his friend Vanellope, so he did what he did best. He wrecked everything. Now Ralph had a medal, but no friend. Ralph sadly went back home. When he got there, he peered out of the video game screen and saw the Sugar Rush game in the arcade. Vanellope's picture was on the game. Ralph figured out that King Candy lied. Vanellope did belong in Sugar Rush. Ralph went back to Sugar Rush. He discovered that Vanellope needed to cross the finish line to become a real racer. Ralph found Fix-It Felix in King Candy's dungeon. Felix had come looking for Ralph because the Nicelanders wanted him back. Their video game didn't work without Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph asked Felix to do what he did best. Felix fixed Vanellope's cart. Ralph helped Vanellope get to the race. He realized that Vanellope was much more important than a medal. Vroom! Vanellope raced as fast as she could. She used her glitching powers to disappear and reappear in front of the other racers. Vanellope crossed the finish line. She was a real racer at last. Ralph went home. He saved his game. He didn't feel bad about being the bad guy anymore. And he didn't need a medal because now he had friends. That was all Ralph needed to prove he was really a good guy.
Disney, Wreck-It Ralph Sugar Rush. Wreck-It Ralph worked as the bad guy in a video game. Fix-It Felix worked as the good guy. The Nicelanders loved Felix. They gave him medals and pies. One night, Ralph had an idea. If he got a medal, he could be a good guy. But he would have to get it from another game. Ralph found a medal, but then he crash-landed in a game called Sugar Rush. A girl named Vanellope saw the medal and cried, "Race you for it!" "Give it back," Ralph demanded. But Vanellope held on to the medal. She thought it was a gold coin and wanted to use it to enter the Sugar Rush kart race. When Ralph found Vanellope, She was in a mud puddle. The other racers had wrecked her racing cart. "Leave her alone!" Ralph shouted. Ralph chased the kids away. Then Vanellope offered him a deal. If he helped her build a new cart, she would return his medal when she won the race. Ralph agreed. Vanellope and Ralph sneaked inside the Kart bakery. They were allowed to make 1 or 2 mistakes, but if they made a third, a mallet would smash their cart. First, Ralph and Vanellope made the batter. It was harder than they thought. "Too much batter," a game voice announced. It was their first mistake. Vanellope broke the mixer. That was their second mistake. "I'm gonna mix it," Ralph said, pounding the batter with his huge fists. Then into the oven it went. At last, a fully baked cart popped out. They tried to frost the cart, but ended up making a mess. "Fail," the game voice boomed. They had made too many mistakes. Ralph stopped the mallet from smashing the cart, while Vanellope finished decorating. She threw on everything she could find: sprinkles, frosting, and bits of candy. The cart looked a little strange. But Vanellope loved it. "It's perfect," she cried. There was still one problem. "I don't know how to drive a real cart," Vanellope said. "If you're gonna race, you need to learn how to drive," Ralph said. He used his giant fists to pound out some stones so Vanellope could have a practice racetrack. Even though the track was ready, the cart was a mystery to both of them because Ralph couldn't drive either. Vanellope got going. Then something strange happened. Vanellope and her cart disappeared and reappeared in another spot. She had glitched. Vanellope zoomed around the track. Ralph had to admit she was a natural, maybe even a winner. "You're doing it," he said. Ralph and Vanellope headed to the Sugar Rush race. Vanellope was going to be a real racer. But now, she wanted to win the race for Ralph, too. It was race time, but Vanellope and Ralph were late to the starting line. The other racers had already taken off. Vanellope zoomed ahead. The other racers bumped into Vanellope's cart trying to break it, but she was unstoppable. After a few glitches, Ralph helped Vanellope get across the finish line. Ralph realized he didn't need a medal after all. He already felt like a good guy.
Wreck-It Ralph, one sweet race. Rancis Fluggerbutter looked over at his bookcase and sighed. He had saved a special spot for his first Sugar Rush Cup. Now, he just had to win one. Hard as he tried, Rancis had never won a race. The other racers made fun of him, especially Taffeta. "Maybe next time, Rancis," Taffeta said. Rancis pretended not to care, but he did. Rancis stood up. He was tired of losing. He started packing his belongings. "I'm going to get the sweetest cart money can buy, even if I have to sell everything to pay for it," he said. Later that day, Rancis walked into the Kart bakery with a pile of money. He drove out with the fastest, fanciest cart the bakery had ever cooked up. "Wait till they see this," Rancis said. "They'll eat my sugar dust." Before the next race, Rancis revved the huge engine. Vroom! The cart shook beneath him. Taffeta was impressed. "What do those controls do?" she said. "You'll see," Rancis replied. But he wasn't really sure. All he knew was his cart was the fastest. the green flag dropped, and Rancis's cart rocketed forward. Rancis tried to steer. He flipped swizzle switches frantically, but the cart was out of control. Zoom! The cart cut off Jubilina, smushing her chariot up against the guardrail. Grrr! Rancis tried to downshift. Honk! Minty swerved as the cart kicked rock candy onto her sugar bubble windshield. At the second turn, the cart veered into a field of jelly beans. Then it crashed into a chocolate-covered cherry. Sploosh! Thanks to his bubblegum airbag, Rancis was fine. His cart was not. Pop! The other racers drove up. "That cart is dangerous," Candlehead told him. "You shouldn't be allowed on the track," Jubilina said. "Rancis, you don't know what you're doing," Snow Anna added. To top it all off, Taffeta drove away with another Sugar Rush cup. "Maybe next time, Rancis, but probably never," she said. Just then, President Vanellope von Schweetz drove up. "What's the matter, Rancis?" she asked. "Did someone get chocolate in your flugger butter?" Rancis's tears drip-dropped into the cherry juice puddle. "I sold everything I had to buy this cart. I'll never be able to get a new one." Plop, plip. "You can make one. Stop your moping, frown face, and follow me," she said. Vanellope led Rancis to the stale cake depot. Before long, the baker tossed out a giant slice of cake. Clunk! "Sounds about a week old. Perfect," she whispered. Vanellope showed Rancis how to use the stale cake for his new cart. It would make it nice and sturdy. "Sweet!" he cried. "Yeah, not bad. But we're just getting started. Come on," she called. Together, they found the parts Rancis needed. At Cereal Box Canyon, they picked a Cheerio power steering wheel. Next was a fudge bucket seat and burned cookie wheels to help him burn rubber. Then chocolate absorbers and taffy bear rakes so Rancis could make the cart move just the way he wanted. Lastly, they rode out to the engine ranch. Wild engine blocks roamed free. Rancis spotted a speedy little one with lots of spirit. Vanellope encouraged him to go get it. Rancis crept up and lassoed it, then hopped on until the engine tired itself out. Vanellope and Rancis put all the pieces together. Then Rancis added the finishing touch. "Check out the RV!" for Rancis and Vanellope. "I couldn't have done it without you," he admitted. "That's President Vanellope. But I'll let it slide this time. Now let's practice driving," she said. The next day, Rancis drove up to the starting line. "Is that a cart, Rancis? Or did the Easter Bunny throw up?" Taffeta joked. Some other racers laughed, but not Rancis. He revved his engine. He and RV1 were ready to race. The green flag dropped. Rancis got off to a slow start. "Come on, little engine. I picked you just for this," he said. The cart started to speed up. Rancis passed Minty and Snow Anna on the inside. Then he zipped past Jubilina and pulled up alongside Taffeta. He was out in front. Bop, bop, bop! Taffeta swerved wide and let her sprinkle spikes loose. Rancis steered around them and zoomed ahead. He sprayed the track with his own secret weapon, flugger butter oil. Taffeta skidded and slid into a molasses swamp. Gloop, gloop. Rancis zoomed across the finish line. First! He had done it! Rancis had won a Sugar Rush Cup. Vanellope was thrilled for her friend. Congratulations, Butterfingers! But where are you going to put that? Isn't your bookcase gone? She asked. Rancis smiled at her. I can make one, or maybe even a trophy case, for holding lots of Sugar Rush cups.
Ralph goes back to his game. He does not need a medal to be a good guy.